ill-informed opinion with WAPTEC. Me being ill-informed. The 70% Ocasio Cortez Green New Deal tax. Marginal progressive taxes. Now, this is just me babbling on for a minute here, because it's something I keep forgetting about how taxes actually work. Most of us looked up if you actually had enough income to do more than what's called simple taxes. There's a tax chart you can look up that just says how much did you earn this year, period, full stop, after all deductions or whatever. Depending on when you apply the deductions, it's in your advantage or it's legal or whatever. Maybe it's both. But the average tax rate is lower than your marginal tax rate in each tax bracket. You can have a 70% tax bracket and have an actual real tax rate, total effective, of 37%. It's not really a 70% tax in a simple way. Effective average rate, the total tax paid divided by total income. That's effective average rate. Marginal tax rates are for each additional unit of income bracket being taxed. Let's do a monopoly money version of it. You make $100, they tax $0 because you have to earn $100 minimum for whatever period of time we're doing here. Let's say that's for a day, for you to be taxed at a rate below $100. We'll just do modern monopoly money mode. You'd be considered too poor to tax. Well, what if you made $1,000, 10 times the amount? Well, then your tax rate for the next $1,000 above 100, so the next $900, excuse me, would be at a higher tax. It would actually be taxed. Okay, what tax rate? Well, let's make it 10%. Let's make this math simple. So, out of $900, you'd pay $90 tax on $1,100. Or, excuse me, $1,000 you'd pay. You get the idea. But let's go on to make it $10,000 in a day. Let's Bill Gates it. Well, that's taxed at 70%. But that's on the next $9,000, not $900. It doesn't cause the taxes at your lower levels or poverty level down here to have their tax percentages changed. As you go higher and higher and higher in tax brackets, there's more of them. In the United States, you used to have, this was before Reagan and actually before even that, the United States had lots of little tax bracket changes. It was very smooth curved. Your taxes would increase in percentage of what you earned on top of the next bracket down. Now, someone decided to, quote, simplify the taxes and make it to where, really all it did was make it to where everyone would be taxed at the same rate so that they could all bitch at the same time, the same way. Rich people were not taxed excessively. The taxes were actually pretty normal. The top tax brackets could be 70% or 80 or something crazy like that. The top tax brackets that we have now are much, much lower, like 40%. But that's only like, you know, above 100,000 to $1 million, you get that at a 40% tax rate or something. Well, actually, you might want to look up this tax rate curve and tax brackets. This is actually what a progressive tax is supposed to be based on. It is not based on progressives. It's not based on escalating the amount of damage you do to rich people. If you and an extremely rich person have their taxes broken down, your entire tax that you pay, the entire income you made over here, the rich person, that first exact amount you made, that first 100,000 or 60,000 or whatever it is you earn if you're doing reasonably well in today's society, is taxed at the same rate for them as well. It's everything after that that gets the excessive taxing on it. And in some cases, there would be areas where the taxes wouldn't change for a large number of spaces or even reduce. They started doing this to try to adjust to make sure that if they got a bunch of people, let's say, stuck exactly making $100,000 a year, that would be considered a major characteristic of or a demographic in society, and make that a nice cutoff point. That's the basic idea. And they would also, the U.S. government would decide that if you're not making money moving around, if you're just hoarding it and sitting on it, maybe you should pay more taxes initially and then not later. You know, you don't have to pay taxes twice. On the other hand, if you reinvested it, you'd pay a very low tax while the investments are still fluid and moving around, trying to earn money by being part of how a system or a business would work. But when you wanted to cash out, let's say your stocks and bonds or whatever, that's when you'd be taxed. Maybe that should be the way it is. You know, that would encourage people to invest money or buy stocks or loan their money out. The idea was to manipulate, well, give people an incentive to do whatever it is that would make America great. And I don't know if you understand this, but if you look at the golden ages that people talk about, oh, taxes were lower. No, if you actually look up the tax rules and the tax bracketing, that's not how it worked. And corporations were taxed different than people. And, well, you'd have to look that up. Rich people kind of keep a secret of what really goes on because it's not what factually happened. It's what they can motivate the majority of people to do. No matter how much of a bunch of peons we all are, we're the ones who vote. We outnumber all the rich people by a ridiculously large number, like 99 to 1. So they rely on everybody else to do their bidding, because when they don't get what they want. It is not in anybody's best interest to have a non-escalating or non-progressive tax. It doesn't affect us. Well, what about trickle-down economy, blah, 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 blah. Shut up. That's no one cares. Well, it's driving people overseas. Right, and Trump got elected, and how many Detroit businesses shut down anyway? It doesn't work because it doesn't force it to work. After a while, you have to say to the trusts, we're going to bust the trust. No more trusting. We don't trust you anymore. Antitrust laws. Oh, you're using tax shelters? We're going to close the tax gaps. The other reason for a lot of the changes in the taxes were to destroy a butt-ton of tax evasion rules, loopholes, special considerations. Most of them got removed. Tax reform did do that. But it oversimplified the things to the point that most of us just think it's a straight tax, or wish it was. No, we don't. Because the amount of money actually needed to maintain the government at its current spending and crapfest rate wouldn't really be done very well. Most of the money that's made in the United States, the majority of actual money, what does it come from? Companies and corporations and rich people? Or where does the majority of the money come from? Does it come from individuals? You might want to look up how that money shows up. Because that's actually where the money comes from. Deciding that you're going to believe a politician versus the people who literally just count where the money came from, you know, they actually do report that. I'll leave a link below in the description about it. But as for Ocasio Cortez, she wasn't actually wrong about something, but failed to explain what it meant. And then she said some other dang thing that was, she shouldn't be in office. Because she literally just basically said in an interview with some damn news magazine, it's not whether I'm right or wrong or accurate. It's whatever else she thought it was. I'll put the quote below, but this is pretty sad. But anyway, it's a marginal, you know, tax bracket thing. It's not a straight tax. She's not going to jack up taxes like literally 3 times as bad as they were. She doesn't have that power, number one. We'd all have to agree to it, or at least our representatives would. She'd get thrown out if she did it. And next thing is, that's the way it was originally, back in the golden era. That era you all long for has a bunch of rules in it you don't know are there. And a lot of people don't want you to know what they are. So pick a decade or a millennia or whatever you think is just wonderful, and actually look up what the rules were. Or refuse to do so because you already know what you're going to find. Terror.